Hi everyone, it's Leona with Leona's Designs, and I am here with week 22 of the Slowstitch with K3N. And this week we are making a comfort cloth, and it's going to be done with the blanket stitch. And K3N said she wanted to talk about comfort, and she thought of blankets which give us comfort. And so she wanted to incorporate the blanket stitch into her project this week. So she came up with this idea of finding a piece of blanket or some kind of soft, comforting cloth, or even something that's a favorite cloth of yours, or a favorite blanket, maybe something from your childhood or from your children. I didn't have anything like that, but I do have this little piece of flannel cloth, which I think probably was perhaps used as a child's blanket, or maybe some sleepwear. It was in my scraps, and so I'm going to use that as my background. And then this little piece of cloth here, I tea-dyed with pomegranate tea. So it's kind of pinkish. And I just thought that would look nice on the top. And then what K3N did was she cut a little hole in this top cloth, and she put a piece of cloth behind it, like it was like she was patching a hole. And then she did a, not a whip stitch, an eyelet stitch around that. So I'm going to attempt to do that. I'm going to make my hole, put this little piece behind it, and then do an eyelet stitch around it. And then I'm going to do the blanket stitch as an outline, not around the edges, but around this center cloth. That's what I'm going to attempt to do. So let's get started. First, I have to cut my little hole, and I don't want it to be too big because I just have a tiny piece of cloth there. Hoping to do it right in the center, so I better fold it again. Just gonna make a little snip. Right there. And then right there. And right there. And then I'm just going to cut a tiny circle. Hopefully you will not cut my fingers. So excited to do this because the blanket stitch was always my difficult stitch, and I could never get it no matter how many videos I watched. I think I've said this before. I think I want my hole to be a little bigger. But when I watched K3N's previous video of how to do a blanket stitch, she made it look so easy, and I was able to grasp it. And I'm quite confident in doing an edge blanket stitch. However, we're not doing that. We're doing a flat blanket stitch, which is on the flat part of the cloth. It's not around the edge. And it's like a decorative stitch. So, it's an interesting project, and I'm hoping to be able to carry it out. If I can get this little hole cut. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to put my piece right behind. Make sure that it's kind of in the center. And I think I will pin it down so it doesn't move around. And we will get started. I'm going to use this two-stranded embroidery floss. It's kind of a maroon color, but I want it to kind of stand out. So I'm going to try to do the eyelet stitch, which I think is just kind of like the whip stitch. Oops. And what she did was she came in the middle and went out. And of course this thread is too long. Watching here for the knot. So we'll see how this goes. She went around, all the way around, and then she came back, caught on a needle. She went all the way around and then she came back and filled it in, kind of like a satin stitch on a sewing machine is what it ended up looking like. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Come, am I on camera? Didn't even, wasn't paying attention there, sorry if I wasn't on camera, but this is kind of what I'm doing. Just taking stitches from the middle and going out. I'm going to do that all the way around. And then I'm going to come back and fill it in with the same kind of stitches. Just up through the middle and out. When I saw her, it reminded me of an eyeball with eyelashes. But then when she finished and it was all the stitches together were like a satin stitch, it reminded me of the center of a flower. It's really pretty. So I'm hoping that's what will happen with mine. We'll see. In the next video that I'm going to do for her week 23, I'm going to incorporate 2 weeks into one video, because her week 23, which she already did, is crazy quilting, and she made that into a 2-part project. Week 23 is putting the crazy quilt pieces together, and then week 24 is going to be sewing various stitches on them. So since I'm behind, I thought I can do that project all in one video. I will do week 23 putting the pieces together, and week week 24 putting the stitches on. So that's my plan anyway. I'm curious to see what this, I'm going to get this a little closer so you can maybe see it better. I'm curious to see what the stitches are going to be. I did do a crazy quilt piece last year with Danella Melon, and it was really fun. It was like, I think it was a 6-week project where we put together I think it was a hexagon or some kind of shape, and then we did different crazy quilt stitches in it. So this is my first round, and then I'm now going to go back around and fill in those gaps. Going to just continue, and then I think Catherine probably made her stitches long and short, but seems like mine are all short. Let's see how this works. I've never done it before, but I don't think it'll be too difficult. Just kind of a way of darning something, as if you were repairing a cloth. And then after we get this part done, we'll start with our blanket stitch. Today is Saturday, and it was a beautiful day. I was watching my great-granddaughter again today. On every Saturday I get to do that. And my daughter comes over also. And today we went to visit a lavender farm that was opening for the first time this season. This is their second year, so this was their grand opening this year. And not a lot of their lavenders in bloom, but they had a lot of lavender products, and they had free samples of lavender cookies. And they have 4 donkeys on their little lavender farm. So we got to see the 4 donkeys. My little great-granddaughter enjoyed seeing the donkeys. And of course eating a lavender cookie. So that was a fun time. We always try to plan a little outing when we watch her. And then we came home and we had lunch, and we went out on my patio, and I gave her some sidewalk chalk. And she had a fun time drawing on my concrete patio. with the chalk. Uh-oh, wait. Thread is separating and it's starting to make a mess there. Yeah, she was having a fun time with the chalk. She would draw something with it and then she would sit down right on it. So her clothes got full of chalk, her hands were full of chalk. She had chalk all over. When her mom came to pick her up, she's like, oh my. We had to change her clothes. But it was fun. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough thread to complete this. And I hope I still have some of this thread on hand. I don't know. This thread I just had in my needle. I hope I have the same thread I can rethread my needle with. This is it so far. Hopefully you can see it. And just going to keep going around, all the way around, doing this stitch. And then I'll be back. Okay, so I got the whole thing stitched with that eyelet stitch. Hope you can see it. And I think it looks very beautiful. It reminds me of a buttonhole stitch on the sewing machine. So I've never done that before. So I'm happy to have done that. And I'm sure I will do it again. It wasn't hard at all. So now I'm going to do this blanket stitch, where I'm going to attempt to do the blanket stitch. And K3N started hers just on the outside of this little center circle and just went around and around and around. So I'm going to see how I do. She kind of started right in the center, just outside of, I think I'll get a little closer. And the blanket stitch is, always have the thread behind your needle. And how she showed me how to do it, or showed everybody in the video, you make like a little V. So where you come up, that's the top of the V, or the triangle, I guess she calls it a triangle. So there's the first leg of the triangle, second leg, and then down here is the, like the point. So you always want your thread behind the needle. So you would go in down here at the point and come up right at the top of the triangle. Oops, I'm trying to hold it up while I'm doing this. Go in down here and come up right at the top of the triangle, keeping your thread behind the needle. And then you're trapping that little, trapping the thread. So that's the beginning, and then you just keep doing that all the way around. So I'm gonna come down here And she said, you know, typically a blanket stitch, you'll keep them all, you'll try to keep all the stitches the same. But she said she was going to do hers wonky. So sometimes she made them short, sometimes long, sometimes farther apart. So I'm going to do the same thing. And we'll see how that looks. I'm just going to kind of keep going around here. Going in. Coming up. Not getting caught on cloth. And we'll just keep going that way, all the way around. And then the second round is the part that I think is really cool. Because you make these little like cell looking designs. And you can experiment, she said. Try different ways of doing it. So this is it so far. Just trying to keep it flat so I'm not pulling it too tight. And I, of course, am not as good of an instructor as she is, so I will link her video below so you can go watch hers. She gives much better instruction than I do, of course. So I'm just going to keep going around, and then I will be back when I get to the end, and I'll show you the second round. I've gone all the way around, and now I'm right back to where I started. So I'm going to go down here and come up right where I sorry, I'm out of camera. I'm going to go down in and come right back up to where I started. Right here, keeping my thread behind the needle. And then I'm going to go down on the other side and anchor that stitch in. So there it is. That's the first round of the blanket stitch. Make a nice little sun, I think. So now, I have enough thread to do another round. It's getting tangled here. Come out. Can either come out right on the edge of these little lines, or you can come out in between them and make a different pattern. So I am gonna come out in between them like she did. Oh, sorry, I keep getting out of camera. Guess I've got it too close. There. so I'm going to come up in between two of these lines, a little lower than these lines. I keep holding it up so you can see it, but then I keep getting out of camera. Okay, so I came up. I'm going to do the same thing now. I'm going to make my little triangle stitch. And then I'm going to take the eye of my needle and go under one of these little stitches. And come up. And then I'm going to go down, come up, and go under, and I've got kind of a little pattern going on there. And I'm going to keep doing that to see what kind of a pattern I can get. Okay, so I got my thread right there. I'll go under two of those. See what that does. Kind of cool. I definitely would encourage you to go watch her video to see how she does it, because her explanation of doing this pattern part is a lot better than mine. And I know I'm probably not doing it exactly like she showed it. But I'm just happy that I can make some kind of a pattern. And I'm happy I can do the blanket stitch, because there was a time when I couldn't do it. I'm going to try it without going under anything. See what that does. I like how it looks when you go under those previous stitches. So I'm going to keep doing that. Pretty soon I'm going to have to tie off my thread though. Go through 2 of them this time. And I'm going to do 1 more stitch behind and tie this thread off. And I'll thread my needle and continue doing this, and I'll be back to show you the results. Okay, so I'm stopping because I don't have enough thread to make another round, but I did make 3 rounds, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it's pretty. Kind of looks like a flower. So this was really fun to do. I just experimented like Catherine said, and sometimes I did a regular blanket stitch. Sometimes I just put the eye of the needle through the previous row stitches and pulled it through, and just varied my stitches off and on, long and short, and just had fun. So I would invite you to try this if you want to learn a couple of stitches that you're not familiar with, or even if you know how to do these stitches. It's just a fun exercise, and you might get a pretty little flower like this. It even looks good on the back, I think, which is good for me. Anyway, it was a fun project, and I will link Catherine's video below so you can go watch hers, and she can show you how to do it better than me, of course. I did have enough thread left that I can stitch this in my journal for week 22. And I hope to see you next week sometime for weeks 23 and 24, which will be crazy quilt stitching. Thanks for watching. I hope you were inspired, and I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.